All right, hello, coffee makers, not coffee takers. He is the master of cyber farms, Alfredo B. Nash Jr. I, the people's chief, Dr. Joseph J. Bermilla Jr., and we are your hosts for the Cyber Coffee Hour. The Cyber Coffee Hour is a product from Mount Vernon, New York, and we're excited to share our experiences and stories with those of our incredible guests. Our mission is to impart knowledge, enhance understanding, and cultivate a sense of community in the expansive world of cyberspace. So for today's show, we'll have a coffee chat with Wolfpack Security co-founder and CEO Clea Ostendorf. Now, Clea is Wolfpack Security's co-founder and CEO. She leads the company in vision and delivery and brings the ability to bridge tech and people into the AppSec consultant space. She has been in security and tech for 15 years, playing roles in sales, delivery, advisory, and product management. Clea loves to get to the root cause of problems and find a win-win solution for everyone. Before Wolfpack, Clea worked at Code 42 as Field CISO, where she helped build and develop data security solutions. She has spoken at conferences and podcasts, including Black Hat, Open Source North, the CISO Series, Enterprise Tech Weekly, and more. She is active in the women in tech communities and continues to organize events nationwide. Clea loves cooking, gardening, drawing, and generally creating beautiful things off the keyboard. Clea Ostendorf, welcome to the Cyber Coffee Hour.
Thank you guys for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Thank you for joining us.
Just real quick, what we'd like to do just just wanted to do a quick check-in as we go around the digital table here. So I guess Clea, we'll start with you as I guess. You know how things been going for you and what you've been up to as of late.
You want personal or professional?
Whatever you want
to.
Hey, it kind of all blends together. So, the world is changing, and as a business leader and somebody part of the community, my personal community, my professional community, we're trying to navigate it. I'm trying to control what I can control and help people where I can. That's anything from helping with the job search to sending groceries to somebody who can't afford it that week. So, I'm just trying to control what I can in my little world.
Alfredo, how about you, sir?
Yeah, so I can't front. It's a little bit of a rough camp along the same lines. I've been kind of spreading myself a little thin to try to keep the lights on. But outside of that, yeah, I'm hustling. I'm staying dug in and trying to stay in this industry. I think for us, myself included, it's not the hardest part is not getting into the industry, it's staying in it. So yeah. I'm contested with that. I started a new job not too long ago. I'll probably brief out on that on another show. I'm also committed to several volunteer organizations at the same time. So I'm just trying to keep it moving, keeping the game,
Yeah. I'm not gonna really delve deep into this, but everyone's aware. If you've been paying attention to the news, you know what's going on. So I'm not gonna dig into that. Yeah, so just really just contending with that. I think just maybe the mental stress that comes with that, and really, and also just trying to keep forward with everything that you have to do on a day-to-day basis. So it's just like I said, just trying to just work through everything and just try and manage it and just really prepare yourself, and also in my position, ensure my team is prepared for anything that's coming down. So yeah. I'll just leave it at that. So very excited. I'm just now to think about that. Very excited for today as we have Clea here. So Clea, I'll start off. So as the co-founder and CEO of Wolfpack Security, how do you leverage your 15 years of experience in security and tech to bridge that gap between technology and people in the AppSec consultant space?
Sure. So I actually started my career in security, in application security. And back then, we'll say 10-ish years ago, it was sort of a nice to have, right? It wasn't something that everybody was doing. Maybe if you were a mature organization or you were under a lot of compliance restrictions, then you were doing something in application security. Now everybody is doing it, right? Because they're trying to sell to these enterprises. They need a SOC 2, you need a pen test, or you need to do something. And they realize that I think overall, we're all so digital products, and the products that we develop are so close to the consumers, we have to secure it. What I've noticed though, and what I really feel like stepping back into application security, what we can bring to the table is we've tried to buy our way secure. Application security, like many other pillars within security, is very dynamic, has a lot of different complexities, is unique to each organization. And what we've tried to do is just uniformly say, I need this tool and this tool and this tool and this tool, and then my problems will be solved. And we're learning, and we're seeing on a daily basis, both for Wolfpack, but also just in speaking to the community, that is not the case. Because if you rely all of your strategy around tools, it's going to fail, right? There's always has to be a process element. There always has to be a people element. You have to think about when we get these alerts, who's consuming them, who's tuning the product, who's determining the risk. And, that's really where I think our organization differentiates. We're tool agnostic. We don't really care what your stack is. We're just trying to say, okay, you have problems. Let's talk about how we're going to solve them. Right. And that might be some assessment work. That might be some program management. That might be just general education, but we have to pull in the people element and the process element if we really want to be successful.
That's awesome. I'll bounce past this over to Alfredo here for the next one.
So yeah, I'll come back to the people and process too, but let's dive into that, the toolization you mentioned. So you mentioned that you love getting to the root cause of problems and finding win-win solutions. Can you share a specific example from your work at Wolfpack where this approach has led to a significant breakthrough?
Yeah, I mean, on a very simple level, our kind of methodology is we'll do a pen test, right? Everybody has had a pen test before. What we do differently is we say, why are these vulnerabilities manifesting? How did they actually get here? Because again, you have all these tools and all these things that you think you're doing. Why is it getting down? How are we finding these exploitable vulnerabilities? And let me remind everyone, it's never really a 0 day. It's the basic things. It's indirect object reference, right? That should have been caught by a scanning tool. It's permissions that, should have been thought about when they were architecting the application. It's really the basic things. And so if you can take what is exploitable and what you have to fix, why not go one step further and say, where did it break down along the CI/CD pipeline that we can actually say, okay, this is not working. This team might need a little extra education, or we need to reevaluate how we're thinking about these vulnerabilities that are being popped up to us. Like how can we move one step further? And that's the root cause. Is it a people problem? Is it a technology problem? Or is it a process problem? And let's identify that so that next year I'm not seeing the same vulnerabilities.
So I'll take that.
I thank you for sharing that.
There's a delay on my side.
Go ahead, Alfredo.
Yeah, there's a delay. I got some latency issues. I apologize, but I'll take it a step further too. I like the idea of bringing back to people and process, not just the toolization. Because you're right. I'm tired of hearing about blind SQL, cross-site forgery. The same common things that, to your point, that my scanner should have detected. But then the other end is, why can't I see them linked and chained in the gaps in my processes, my people and processes, IS policy, governance reviews, all these things that are stood up to ensure that we're secure before we get in prod, still doesn't catch the OWASP top 10. It's been around for 20 years, and I've witnessed for 20 years that no one has dialed that into your point and educating the people in process and changing the mindset to, hey, we can get to this ahead of our release cycle, ahead of anybody going into production and finding a bug bounty, right? Because it's exciting when you find it before it's in production, before you have to award a bounty, before you have to get a whole bunch of folks spun up to patch it and then potentially bring your environment down. Not potentially today, because to your point, 10 years ago, we were told just kick it to prod. Now, today, it will bring your environment down. It will compromise everything that's in a Kubernetes cluster.
Build some compensating controls and it'll be all good.
Yeah. Right, exactly. And mitigations, right? Exactly. That was the verbiage 10 years ago. Now, 10 years later, those controls are out the window. They're bypassed. People and process as well. Someone might not know to this day what a blind SQL injection is, right? What think something towards my favorite, server-side request forgery. Those things keep me up at night 20 years later. And then, the other caveat I like too is like training your staff and cadre in a non-technical manner to engage the security operations team. That's something that's very, I don't want to say lax, because it's not the organization's fault. It's us in this field, our industry, being empathetic and saying, hey, people don't know app security. They still don't know what app security is. The cadre of folks that are out there in non-technical roles might need to get the same training, like awareness training, before application security. Because there's folks today that still don't know what we're talking about, unfortunately. So, sorry. So I got off on the rant. So Jordan, from your experiences as a field CISO at Code 42.
Yeah,
How do you see the landscape of data security evolving, and what unique solutions and Wolfpack Security bring to address these challenges that we just mentioned? Sorry.
Well, I mean, data security, again, I think it's everything that we're addressing today, Wolfpack, Code 42, any company in security, any product company or services company, we always were trying to traditionally block, right? The old ethos within security was block, fortify the castle, and move on. Now, the reality is with our incredible technology, all the SaaS tools, all the different layers and connections and API, I mean, it's impossible to block everything. So we have to change the mindset and how we're protecting by empowering the users, empowering the developers, empowering the end users, having some education and having some checks and balances. So I think, Code 42, before they were acquired by Mimecast, did a really good job at this. By the concept was securing the collaboration culture. So knowing that your employees are going to be sending their data everywhere, how do you identify what matters that's being sent everywhere and what would impact the business if it was intercepted by somebody or it got out? Application security should not be pushing down these rules. How can you empower the engineering team to come up with their own concepts and architectural framework that aligns with the business risk, but allows them to do their job? And it's sort of like if you're married or if you have kids or really if you have any relationship, you want the other person to agree with you, but you got to make it seem like it was their idea. So it's the same concept in business. How do you get the people to do what you want them to do, but it was their idea? And I think that's the tricky nuance that is not going to come from a tool. It comes from people talking.
Yeah, there's a bit of a cerebral strategy that comes with that in order to get what you need. No, I think that's awesome. So you're active in women in tech communities and you organize events nationwide, which I feel not too long. I think you'll be doing worldwide soon, I believe. But what initiatives or strategies most effectively promote diversity and inclusion in the tech industry?
Great question. I think we're all trying to help and do that in our own way. For me, I always am very transparent about my background as not being a really technical person and growing into it. And I think we have to see, in order to feel like we can be part of something, we have to see ourselves in that space, right? We have to, be sort of the role model or say like, you did it. How did you get there? And what were the steps? And be really transparent about it and not just the fluff like, well, I just studied really hard and I got in. No, somebody gave me a break. And this is what they liked about me that I could help in this role. So I always tell people who are trying to break in or kind of like, move around within cyber, what are you really good at? Right? Like, are you really analytical? You like to just like dig into things and like, pull it apart and do lots of research? Well, maybe you'd be a great SOC analyst. Or are you more, you have a teaching background and you're really good at motivating people and building training that is for adult learning? Well, you'd be great in training and awareness. Or maybe you have more of a legal background and you like to follow the rules. Well, GRC is for you, right? There's a space for everyone. And I think being very clear about there's different paths, and security is so diverse. There's not, you don't have to just be a coder. You can do so many different things and help people see that and emphasize those skills. So that's what we really try and do at these events. Secondarily, it's really a safe space to kind of lament about, it's hard, right? I'm a working mom. I have 2 young kids. Like there are times, right? We were on a call and I'm like, I got to run. Yeah. Somebody can't pick up my kids from daycare. I'll see you,
Yeah.
I think being transparent that like you can do it. It's hard, but this is what's worked for me, or this is how transparent I was about being a parent, or I hid my pregnancy for many, many months. My first role in cyber, I was like, oh, hey, I'm going to be out for a few months. I'm having a baby. And all of my partners were like, what? Because I didn't want to tell anyone because I thought it would affect my career. So I think sharing those stories that you're not alone, especially as a female in security, that you're not alone and kind of struggling through challenges of trying to do it all. I think that builds community, and we need to do more of that to be more supportive and help each other.
No, I think you make a great point where, as you say, it's helpful, especially for the next generation coming up, to be able to see themselves in these roles, in these positions, and feel like they're capable of doing it. I firmly believe that, and I think it's ever so important for the work that you're doing. Just putting yourself out there, so the next person coming up can see themselves in this example, see you. They can see themselves in you, and be like, okay, and they can have that confidence to know that, okay, I could do this. This is something for me. That also ties into exposure, for maybe some communities that maybe traditionally they weren't exposed to, maybe just cybersecurity or cybersecurity programs as a whole. We're starting to see that more, starting to see that change a lot more now. Because even recently, my 15-year-old son, he had reached out to me and said, "Hey, we want to, they're implementing these cybersecurity programs in high school," and he asked me, just my thoughts on it. So I was able to sit down and kind of go over which path was best for him. But I didn't have that for me, for myself growing up. But I think it's good. It's good to see like these changes are happening, um, and again being able to. So in this case, for my son, he's able to he has that luxury, I'd say, to be able to ask me and get that guidance to say, okay, this is what I want to do, and now he has that confidence to, okay, this is what I should do, and these are some of the things that I could confidently attain, and also too. Secondly, I'll even touch on, as you mentioned, for one, everyone should have a good understanding of themselves to help maybe build like the best career for themselves within cybersecurity. As you mentioned, like, yeah, if you, what are some of your inherent skills already, and then using that to translate what that looks like in cybersecurity. So I think that's very important, because you don't want to just mindlessly taking classes and go over certifications, and then you get in that job, and then like, oh man, I don't like it. So you do want to, if you want to have that longevity and really be successful, I think you want to take that time to yourself. This is even advice that I even received from my very first mentor, or cybersecurity mentor, that she mentioned to me. At first, I thought it was a therapy session, but it made sense, because as I look back now, it does make sense, because yes, you want to build on what you already do naturally, and then kind of take it from there. So yeah, so I thought it was a great point. So I don't know if Fredzo, you got
Yeah,
anything you want to
I'll
add
take
on
it
to that?
too. Yeah, absolutely. I respect what you said, Clea, right? So when you don't have an organization, or you don't know where you want to go into cybersecurity, it's very difficult to map where your personal traits might not exist in the organization too. So I respect what you said about potentially aligning that to a cybersecurity role, right? So a lot of times if you say, "Oh, I went to school," right? School is great, but school is not, like to Dr. Joseph's point, not the all end all be all, right? Then certifications, not the end all be all. The combination of both and the experiences that you've overcome, the organization might create a role for you, right? Because they could say that person is resilient, and technical or not, because I think the tech side is just a little overrated, and be personal, because when I started too, there was no technical requirement, right? There wasn't this high bar that's set today, unfortunately, where I have to have pen tested for 5 years, right? Or the other side of the fence is, how do I influence the organization to create the role that I best fit for, right? Offensive security wasn't a thing 10 years ago inside most organizations, right? The quality assurance gap between that offensive security team and application security testers, to your point, didn't exist 10 years ago. So how does me overcoming the organizational adversity and my personal adversity create the new role within the organization? Because to Dr. Joseph's point too, it's not easy to stay in this field when you know where the gaps are organizationally in people, process, and lacks of technology, right? If there's a lack of technology, then allow me to onboard it with me being hired into the organization. And a lot of folks I've noticed, especially to Dr. Joseph's points, they do coding challenges where they allow young folks who are not in cyber to solve real world problems in the organization. I think that's phenomenal. I'm kind of jealous, because I wish that existed when we were growing up. The second side is get them in young. Get them in young, teach, like me, I'm trying to teach my kiddos Python. There's Pythons for kids. There's new coding challenges now. There's all these litany of tools. Now it's to close the gaps in processing people. I've never believed that there was a workforce shortage. It's just I guess a lack of mentorship, a lack of understanding that, yes, some of us in this industry have been stressed by multiple outages, myself included. I'm actually like getting on the tea leaves a little bit, but I didn't know that was a reality, right? I didn't know that if you're on multiple outages, multiple on-call sessions, lacks of backups and disaster recovery, that can take a toll on you as an individual in cybersecurity. So we have to also warn the next generation that, like, it's not that easy once you're in to highlight all of these different gaps and do the gaps per organization that you're on board to. So I respect that. I think it's something that needs to your point, Clea, to be honed inside the organization. Prepare them to succeed, and also realize that if they fail, don't blame themselves. Because it's not just used organizationally. We took a loss as when a breach occurred. We took a loss when that patch didn't get made. And then also encourage like this, the positive aspect is we can learn from it. I'm always a fan of continuous learning, postmortems, if you want to say that too. That should be a regular thing where the incident is not that big of a deal. We handled it. I'm waiting to see where they're onboarding that part with the younger crowd. Because yes, everybody wants to jump into pen testing, but it's not this fun thing under incident. It's not something you could test in production either. So, you know.
Yeah. And I want to just say, my career journey, and I think this is for many people, it's one part grit, but it's one part luck and chance, right? In every single role I had, I said, okay, well, I want to do that. And somebody reached down and pulled me up and said,
Right.
I'm going to give you a chance. And then I lived up to the expectations and continued to grow. But it's not, it's not like it just happened, right? Somebody gave me a chance. And I think as, we are all leaders in this space, you have to do the same thing. Who can you reach down and pull up with you to help them and be that mentor, whether formally or informally? I wouldn't be where I was today if it wasn't for the people who said, I see something in you, let me help you.
Yeah, 100%. Same for me. I was in an organization. They said, hey, you're an amazing software engineer. We don't have your skill set in our cadre of cybersecurity professionals. Would you mind onboarding to a new role? And then the hardest challenge is it's not just one to one, it's one to many. Sometimes you might have to pick up 6 or 7 indirect reports and train them up to your skill set and beyond. And then they're going to leapfrog you. Be okay with that because you want them to be great, to your point. The other thing is once you have 7 or more direct reports, that influences the audience to say, well, where are other folks that haven't learned the technical stuff, right? It's the technical stuff. I think I don't want to get too dramatic, but I think it's overrated. You can teach anyone that's willing to learn. All right. Myself too. To your point, if you have somebody say, hey, you're a great person, you have a great personality, and you're super smart, but you're a little bit more resilient than this topic that we're dealing with. How can you train that to someone else? Or 7 other people, and that's what I think. And I'm a little frustrated because there is no workforce gap if you're willing to do that direct mentorship. To your point, right? It's not easy to do it, but if you take on 7 or more, everyone, the whole ship rises, right? And then eventually, hopefully in the near future, we'll have 0 vulnerabilities. I'm just saying because there's a movie actually out in Netflix called 0 Day with Robert De Niro. It's amazing. I binge watched a good portion of it, and you listen to, like, it's not just the vulnerabilities, it's the political aspect, which is why I like the show, of patching vulnerabilities. And today you can't patch a vulnerability without permission of an org, without potentially being locked up. No one's talking about it. You want to mentor folks around these avenues because that's definitely where I could see some pitfalls when you're trying to bring folks up in application security, because a lot of folks don't know that. Right. A lot of folks think they're doing code for good or any coding for good, and they might be adverse in the organization. They might be taking a risk that they can't handle personally. So we gotta look out for each other and offer that direct mentorship to everyone we bring up in this profession.
Absolutely. So, Clea, you enjoy cooking, gardening, drawing outside of your professional life. How do these creative pursuits influence your approach to problem solving and innovation in the cybersecurity field?
I think it's really important to do things with your hands when we're always like on keyboards, right? It's all this, like, the world we live in is in many ways just this weird kind of matrix, right? It's all hypothetical. You're pushing code that does this. Like, to me, working with materials that I can directly create, and, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. It just makes me feel grounded and connected to the earth, connected to, like, to humans. It makes things a little more real and tangible. So I think it's important for anyone to step away in whatever way that it gives you an opportunity to recharge. I'm also, a big advocate of exercise, not necessarily like trying to lose weight all the time, but of course that's always a nice goal. More like move your body and get outside of your own brain. And so anything I'm doing outside of work is trying to just sort of clear my brain and recharge the cells that are within us, and so that, you know, I can bring new ideas and new perspectives to what I'm doing in a work capacity.
No, I firmly believe that, because especially as we get stressed out at you know, certain parts of, you know, with the job that comes with that, you do need that release or some sort of maybe external activity that to help you, whether, like you said, as you mentioned, with exercise. Maybe some folks is video games, or I know Alfredo, he's probably the biggest gardener I know. So, but it's just an example of you should have an outlet to where you're able to step away from the keyboard and have being able to recharge, as you mentioned, recharge those batteries, and that way when you do get back into the office, all right, you'll be able to come back with more of a fresh mindset, more of a clear mind, and be able to tack on the next week of challenges that may come across.
100%. I'll take that just a little further, right? For me, I couldn't keep playing video games. So video games used to be my outlet of a non-cyber thing to do. But then I started realizing the video games started talking about cyber. My particular favorite one was Metal Gear. And then when Metal Gear came out, I was like a senior professional in cybersecurity. And they were talking about AI cybersecurity. I was like, nope. And then all those years ago, I said, well, just like you said, how do I recharge the batteries, but also disconnect? And gardening was it. Gardening is, I don't know, and I want to hear from some of the coffee makers that are listening. If there's any cybersecurity folks that are gardening, please hit me up and hit the show up, because it is the best anti-cyber thing to do. Like, you know, to your point, touching the soil, we're connected there. Planting, you know, saplings, we're connected there. Watching the birds land on the tree that you grew, we're connected there. And most importantly, we're disconnected from that web of software, right? Because that's an ecosystem. Software as an ecosystem, gardening as an ecosystem, we're putting back into our environment and recharging. So I think that is the best thing to do that's outside of cyber. And then cooking. Whatever you grow, whatever you try to make edible, put in the pot.
Ties in.
Right. Put in the pot, touch it up, you know, with some sauces or herbs that you've grown, and then try to eat it with your family, because that's also reconnecting back and staying offline or off grid. I'll say, you know, folks will say, oh, we take it offline. I'll say, we'll take it off grid in the future. You know, you heard it on our show.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of it.
So, so we have Clea Ostendorf, a co-founder and CEO of Wolfpack Security, here on the Cyber Coffee Hour, part of the Alive Podcast Network. As we transition here, learn a little bit more about Clea and maybe some of her things that she likes to do outside of work, and some insights that she would like to share with us. So first, what do you feel, Clea, in your estimation, are the most significant emergent threats in cybersecurity today?
The most unexciting ones, which would be all the tech debt that we have, right? I mean, I love the new shiny thing. Believe me, I always want something new and shiny and sparkly. But let me tell you what we really need to focus on. It's all of our legacy tech that we have just ignored, that we've just said, you know what, it'd be really hard to fix this, or it would be, you know, it might break something. But guess what? When it does get popped and when it breaks, it's going to be really painful. So why don't we just invest a little bit up front and try and address that? So a lot of the work we're doing right now is, again, it's not really exciting, but it's just clearing tech debt, right? Like, I think that, you know, that's a great place to use a contractor, because because you don't have to burn your employees out. You could just like pass it on. Sorry, you know, for my contracting friends, you could just pass it on to a contractor.
I was trying not to say anything.
Hey, you know, I'll take this on. But we have to address it. I don't care if it's internal, if you farm it out, or if you know, redevelop something. It's a huge problem, and I think it's only going to get worse as we compile more and more and more and more, especially with AI on top of it. And, you know, these legacy vulnerabilities that exist in our systems, guess what? AI is aware of it. So if you have your adversaries and your attackers starting to leverage that, they're going straight for the heart of the things that have been ignored and the core systems that we've just tried to pretend will be okay. So that's where I would say.
I completely agree, Clea. I'm sorry, Dr.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I have been the contractor you talked about, and you're right. It's this very difficult relationship with tech debt, because anyone I mentor getting into contracts say we're gonna keep it real boring. I said we're gonna keep it real boring. We're not gonna go high level. We're not gonna go side of desk and all these industry changes. We'll keep it real boring and going after that antiquated platform. And a lot of folks don't like to hear that. And I'm glad you said it and not me, because if you're a technologist and you say legacy debt or legacy tech debt, it could be coming off adversarially as a contractor. And this is multiple jobs and career paths that I've been on, but also folks I've mentored. I say, hey, just keep it real boring for a second and then get to the shiny bits. It's almost like a wasteland. I hate to say it. It's like you're watching the wasteland of shiny parts that are not being deployed backwards or not being put in tests. So let's get around the debt first to make it fun, almost like what they call it, a bug hunt, right? Or a bug challenge, right? Because folks can cut their teeth on that legacy environment and move forward and start having fun. So that's 100% received. I'm glad you said that. Okay,
All
so
right.
you go ahead. Yeah. So what would you say was the first piece of technology that sparked your interest in cybersecurity?
Well, first, I didn't even know what cyber was, and I was like, what is this? Oh, it's hackers. So you have the ability to go into people's messages and bank accounts and see what they're doing. And I'm just a nosy person. We've rebranded that to being curious, which I would say I'm a very curious person, and I would want to know what people are up to. I don't want to do anything bad, but I would want to know. So then I just went on this whole journey and became totally enamored with the space. And really, for me, what has kept me around is we're all we're all in this together, right?
Right. Yep.
And the
Yep.
more we remember that we should be, hey, I got popped here and this is how it happened. I'm not going to make it public, but you're in my industry, so I'm going to tell you how this happened. The more we can learn from each other and collaborate and share, the stronger we're going to be, because we're fighting the same adversaries. So I love the community that is around security. I mean, there's cybersecurity celebrities, right? Isn't that a weird?
We
Isn't that a
we hope
weird
to
thing?
we hope to become some.
Obviously, you are on that list, but isn't it crazy that within this industry, there's not only is the technology and the things that we're doing to protect the common good, there's also this massive marketing engine, and then there's this, then there's the industries that spin off, and then there's these like famous CISOs, right?
The
Like
the
that's
A-listers,
and
Right.
you know.
amazing.
The
I
tier
just love
A
it.
crowd. You brought top of mind. There's a good read about this. It's called Team Topologies. Now, they're not sending us any coffee provisions or anything like that, but I just started reading after owning the book for about 3 years. And it talks about these bursts of organizational ontologies, like where marketeers take cyber folks to the conference, right? And it's like this celebrity factor, like you said, where it's like, oh, they're shiny, and one's a marketeer, one's a cyber person. How did they know each other? And what do they have to do going forward to solve some of the tech debt problems? So Team Topologies, I just started reading it, and that's what popped into my brain when you said that.
I love it. I'm writing it down. You can see behind me. I flipped
Yeah,
all my
same.
books around.
Yeah,
But a voracious reader. Yeah.
I'm trying to be
That's
better
awesome.
because I just collect them, and I've read half of them now. Okay, so that's a good segue too, right? So what key challenges have you faced on your journey, and how did you overcome them?
Well, I'll just talk, what's going on right now. I'm building a business. It's hard, right? It's everything takes longer. We're the small guy, we're fighting these behemoths, and I have partners that I work with and they say, I'm not happy with the people I use, but they're a brand name and I can't switch. And that to me speaks to such a more broken system, that it's this sort of game that we play within cyber. You have like these celebrity companies who are not performing anymore. They used to, right? That's how they got to that celebrity. And yet you can't switch to somebody who's going to deliver something to you on a better quality, better partnership, all the things, because you need to have that brand name so that you can acquire more customers. So, I mean, that's a challenge that, I think in 5 years will not be a problem for me. But, in the short term, as a budding business, it's a challenge. And anyone who is a founder or early stage in an organization, starting something up, they're not doing it for fun, right? They're doing it. I mean, I actually do think it's fun, but they're doing it because they see a problem in the market, they see a gap, and they want to fix it. The mission behind it is so closely tied to the delivery and the products and the things that they're trying to do to me, it makes a lot more sense to try and partner with a small vendor in that sense. But, I'm not a Fortune 1 company.
So I will applaud that because I actually prefer the startups, and I want to say you dialed in something that we challenged on the Cyber Coffee Hour. We actually have a side of desk consultant say to us that you have to identify the product market fit early, and I didn't know what that was. I'm gonna be transparent, like, hey, what does that mean? Well, that means that you're flying on the radar from disrupting the Goliaths that want to shut you down in your 2 to 5 year moonshot. To your point, 5 years from now, we hope you're thriving and surviving, and that you're unseating some of these contestants without even saying anything to them directly. Because that's something I didn't even know as someone that says, hey, you're a tech founder. What does that mean? Who is out there now that I'm disrupting and potentially making myself vulnerable to? So I respect that you said that. I actually love the startups that do that because at the same time, you're solving the problem and also you could pay your mortgage. Let's just be real. The second side of fence is you're helping others pay their mortgage in the same sense, on-seating them and teaching them cyber through your growing pains. So I actually love startups like that because there is a large ontology of legacy debt and legacy people and process that keep the bar low. I'll just say it. Don't throw any coffee beans at me, but they keep the bar low and they onboard that low bar to some of the tech environments, people, process, and tech actually. But I love that. I love that idea, and I love that you're dialed it into where you will hire the right people to get the right job done. So I respect that.
Yeah, it's almost like when you're trying to go for coffee and you have the establishments like Dunkin' Donuts and Starbucks. They're there. You know them by name, but they stop trying. They don't have that personal effect anymore, as opposed to like the small businesses, the mom and pops, where they put in more effort. They care more about the relationships, delivery, how you feel, the ambiance, things of that nature, because they try more. So it's
Right.
it's that correlation. I could definitely see that. But also with that, as we talk about coffee, Clea, what is your favorite coffee that helps you get through the day?
Well, I like crappy Starbucks coffee. As we're saying this, right? I was like, I mean, okay, we have an espresso machine, so we use that. I like that. But when I'm out and about, no, I just want like a grande Pike Place with half and half. Like that, I'm very happy with that. I know it, and you know what? Sometimes you just want to know what you're getting, right? It's consistent, it's boilerplate, it's nothing special, but I know what I'm getting.
And the Pike is hard to resist because they gave it out for free. They give it out for free, like the bring you in, because that's their blend before you get their espresso. So to your point, to the boilerplate is like, who else do I go to that could do that, right? And I have an espresso machine as well, and I've never used it because I can go get a double espresso or Americano. But to Dr. Joseph's point, I'm kind of like, I'm used to them now. What else is left? Like, Dunkin' too. I balance it like, and no shots at Dunkin', but it's just the one bar above gas station coffee that I could deal with. I'm like, all right.
No, that's true. That's factual.
Like if I need anything else, if I don't have any coffee today, I'll go to Dunkin'. But if I want to ramp up on Dunkin', well, yes, I know Pike, Americano, Blonde Blend. I know them because they're there. They're the default. But then I have to pivot on Starbucks. To your point, it's like, all right, how do I make a better espresso shot? And who in my town, in my area, can make a better espresso shot and show me how to do that? So you're 100% right. And it's like you gravitate towards Starbucks' orbit because they're everywhere, right? Big box or not, even online. The ads pop up now, and it's like, we know your last 7 drinks. Here's a new drink that you should try, and here's the stars for it. Come back to us when we haven't seen you in a while.
I am trying, though, and this is, universal in my life. I'm trying to support small businesses because now I am one. And I'm trying to be conscious about where I'm putting my money. Like, even if I don't want a coffee, we have a coffee shop a few blocks from my house. Horrible coffee, like the worst. But I'll go there because I'm trying to.
But hold on. You gotta let them know.
Yeah.
Just because it's small business, and if I applaud you for wanting to support, but part of that support too, like, look, if it's crappy, you gotta let them like, look, man, y'all gotta change this up. If y'all still want me to come through, y'all gotta fix this.
Yeah,
but also too, there's plenty of like small businesses, like establishments that do put out, in my estimation, better quality than Starbucks, and especially
100%.
Dunkin' Donuts.
100%.
You just gotta look for them and find them, and but they're definitely out there.
I keep a separate Google Maps, and this is somebody, please don't turn this into an app and pivot on me, but I keep a saved Google list and I name it Cyber Coffee Hour. I literally and I keep all of the local shops in this list just to do what Dr. Joseph said. I'll write a note and say, next time I go, I'll return this, or say, how was this timed? So I can learn. Like, how was the shot timed? Can you let me know? And then they remember you. They will remember you. Like, yo, you know what? You were right. And then what happens is the ecosystem gets better. Now folks start to say, look at your review, and they star, and they're like, yeah, you know what? After week 5, they finally got it together. So I kind of track it. I'm a little obsessed, as you can tell. I track it because I won't go to the same place 3 times. I never did, even when I started this journey. If it's the first experience, okay, they get a pass to Dr. Joseph's point. The second experience, I'm going to say something, and I'm kind of going to make a suggestion and want to know the right, recommendation to Dr. Joseph's point again too. The third time, I'm returning it. I'm like, hey, you know what? Can we try this again? Can we try to make it again? So they know, 1, they're divesting, right? I'm divesting in their cup of coffee. And 2, hey, how do we learn what we did wrong with every customer like that, right? Because to Dr. Joseph's point, you don't want them to keep taking $5, $10, $25 and the coffee doesn't get better because it does start racking up.
That's just insanity at that point. So, Clea, if you could have any superpower to help you in cybersecurity, what would it be?
Well, you hinted to it. We'll
Can I
give you a hint.
pass?
You said
That's a hard
no,
question.
wait. Well, you hinted to it. You said something about hacking into things.
Okay, fine. I would like to. I would like to be able to do my own pen tests. I would like to be able to be a hacker.
Yes,
I've
we
always
just
wanted
did
to
it.
do that.
We just did it. We just pen tested the coffee shop. Yeah, you see, this is how we just hey, the vulnerability is the cup of coffee is not getting better. And it stayed weak. And, how do we influence the conversation? Well, we do an outbrief report on the last 3 cups of coffee. And we say in the last 3 cups of coffee, we've had a finding that the shots weren't timed properly. The next engagement, we'll have to figure out how to time the shots properly. Send the finding. Pen test done.
You make it look so easy.
It's not. It took 10 years.
That's
So I'll
your
tell them.
superpower.
It took 10 years to be told that's what I brought to an organization, a startup at that. And actually, shout out to Datto, right? Like, I'm done. Shout out to Datto. They had to teach me, right, how to stay in seat, how to be quiet about certain things and test software because I didn't know how to. And now, all these years later, they started another startup called Slide. Shout out to them if, the coffee check is in the mail. But they initially said exactly that. You don't have to know how to pen test. We'll show you how. Right, that's the superpower to you. Hacking is just a matter, and somebody told me this years ago too. Hacking is just learning how to figure out what you don't know how to do, right? And then engaging that and engaging and teaching others. You'll learn by teaching others. So 100%, that's a superpower that is not easily learned.
All right. So, lastly, what are some of the, and I think we kind of touched on it earlier, but like, there's some of like your hobbies, interests, just like what you like to do, outside of.
Okay, outside of work, I'm in a cooking club, which is awesome. It's with a bunch of ladies, and we choose a cuisine and all make dishes. And the cooking levels are very varied. I mean, some are semi-professional, and some you don't want to eat. So it keeps it interesting. I try and stay really active, whether it's lifting weights or going for walks or just, moving my body to clear my mind. And what else do I like to do? Well, I have 2 little kids, so I basically chase them around, and they're boys, so it's a lot of wrestling.
Yeah. WWE.
I learned. I'm learning how to wrestle.
Elbow drops from the top rope.
Right.
The jumping.
Random construction paper.
Oh my God. Y'all are wild. I had no idea the concept of like being a boy mom, what it really meant. It meant just you're like tackled all the time and dirty. And so.
Oh, yeah.
It's a one-up. They have to one-up each other,
Literally, that's what they do. No, they both have to throw the last punch. Stop.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I guess on that thread, have you taken them or plan to take them to like a D show?
I took them to Monster Jam, and I would say,
oh, that's the best one.
Okay.
Yeah,
the cars are wrestling now.
I'm gonna say that's going to be outsourced to their dad. That is like,
Yeah.
I will cook with them. I will do
Right.
art. I will even wrestle on the ground. Like, I'm cool with that. No, thank you.
You good.
Sometimes you have to know like what's going to bring me joy. Like this smelling exhaust from a monster truck, loud monster truck for 3 hours. I'm good. I'm going to outsource that one.
That's it.
That
That's
sounds like
good.
a great day to me. The fuel, the
Exactly. You
time.
know what? Somebody's gonna love it. Somebody's gonna love it. It's just not me. So I don't want to take that opportunity away from somebody else.
And what about sports? Are they young? Are they young for sports or too young? Or what sports are they?
They're getting into it, finding their stride in sports. I don't know. We'll see.
Do you, I
They're
won't. I
skating
won't.
actually right now as we speak. So their
I
dad took
won't
them.
influence the masses, but put one in rugby and the other one in football, and see how they see how they contest on that. Like, see how they get better at both.
Oh my God. You're trying to have me just have broken windows.
Well, I have a boy and a girl, right? And they compete. They're 4 years apart, and they compete as it is. My daughter and son, I love that they're one upping each other with the distance, but it's a great engagement to like I'm learning their personalities because of it, right? So I think it's awesome that you just said that because I don't think I would be a bad influence on it if they were both boys because we'd be at like the Renaissance fair, right? Like we'll be in, you know, there'll be like a cage match in the backyard, you know.
Oh yeah, you gotta set up the whole ring and
Right,
everything. Man.
right. We'll be doing what is that? Do they still do go kart? Do kids like go karts like that? We'll be Monster Jam go karts. We'll jump the ramp and see if we can do that.
I would do that. I mean, you know, I'm learning. I'm just going with the flow. You got to
Yeah.
embrace the personalities that they are and try and shape a little bit. But at the end of the day, they are who they are when they're born. Like literally, these personalities were there.
And do they help with the gardening? Do they help with the gardening that you do at all?
You know what? They actually do like to get involved. So that's fun.
Nice.
Like
nice.
we have little seedlings going right now. Hopefully I keep them alive for the next 3 months, but no promises.
Another question too: what happens to the recipes that don't go so well? What do you do with those in your cooking
My
classes?
cooking for my family is so boring now. I just am like, I'm feeding toddlers, you know? So is it cheese, meat, and bread? Some variety? Pasta?
Right.
I mean,
Just lining up.
like cooking used to be really an exciting thing for me. It's not anymore. It is.
Got it.
What form of ground beef are we eating? Because at the end of the day, I want them to eat. Like picky eaters are so frustrating. So I'm just.
That's why. Yeah, that could be. I get that. Well, Clea, it was definitely had a great time and conversation with you, and I appreciate you taking the time with us today. But so as we get ready to sign off, any last things you want to share with our listeners?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. Super honored to be with the two of you. I'm sure you will be cybersecurity more famous than you are sooner than later. Here's my big takeaway. I think these days we have to support each other. We have to put our money where our mouth is. And I think we need to be vulnerable and ask for help when we need it. That's both personally and professionally, and seek guidance because no one knows anything or everything. And, you know, there's a community for a reason. So that's my sign off note.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you to you, those joining us for another episode of the Cyber Coffee Hour, part of the Alive Podcast Network. If you enjoyed this episode, explore more engaging content in the Alive Podcast Network app. By supporting this podcast and nearly 100 other Black hosted shows, you can enjoy ad-free listening while contributing to a diverse range of voices in the podcasting space. We appreciate your support and look forward to sharing more insightful conversations with you in our next episode. So until then, keep brewing those ideas and stay curious about cybersecurity. All right, that's it. It's a wrap. We out of here. Peace.
Thank you, guys. This was awesome. You guys are so fun, and you have such a good dynamic.
Oh, there it is. Dr. Lisa said the same. I'm glad. You know, I